This forms this cool structure called a fusion crust, which
The universe is a fascinating place, full of mysteries that leave us questioning everything we know. But every so often, we stumble upon objects so strange and unexplainable that they seem to defy all logic. From a tiny, 6-inch mummified skeleton found in a desert to an ancient Greek gadget that could predict celestial events. Join me in today's video as I uncover 20 truly concerning objects that are definitely not from this planet. 1. Atacama skeleton. In 2003, Oscar Munoz, a treasure hunter, was nosing around the eerie, abandoned mining town of La Noria, deep in Chile's Atacama Desert. What he digs up near a crumbling church is enough to make your hair stand on end. A tiny, 6-inch mummified skeleton with a noggin that could rival any sci-fi movie alien, giant eye sockets, and, get this, only 10 pairs of ribs. Munoz, probably not knowing whether to freak out or cash in, sold this little oddity to a local pub owner. From there, it ended up with Ramon Navia Osorio, a Spanish businessman with a penchant for UFO tales. They named the skeleton Eta, and it kicked up a storm of alien conspiracy theories. Fast forward to 2012, and Dr. Gary Nolan from Stanford University catches wind of Eta. Curiosity piqued, he managed to snag some of the skeleton's bone marrow for a deep dive into its genetic secrets. By 2018, Dr. Nolan and his team unveiled their findings. Eta is not a visitor from beyond, but rather a human female, albeit with some rare genetic tweaks linked to dwarfism and bone disorders, and her DNA, a close match to indigenous Chilean populations. 2. Peruvian alien mummies. Well, you think you've seen it all, and then boom, 2017 rolls around, and what pops up? Mummified remains with 3-fingered hands and skulls like elongated footballs found near Nazca, Peru. Now, that's not your everyday archaeological find, right? Enter Jaime Maussan, a Mexican journalist with a penchant for UFOs who couldn't wait to share these bizarre specimens. Thanks to some local tomb raiders, these out-of-this-world bodies were dug up from a secluded cave and flaunted in a documentary and a press conference in Lima. Maussan, alongside Dr. Konstantin Korotkov from St. Petersburg University and forensic whiz, Dr. Jose de Jesus Zalce Benitez, claimed these were the real McCoy, over 1,000 years old and unlike anything ever documented. However, plot twist. Come July 2017, the World Congress on Mummy Studies called bull, labeling the findings a hoax, just a mix of human and animal bones pieced together against all ethical standards. Did that stop Maussan? Nope. In 2023, he was at it again, pitching these supposed alien relics to Mexico's Congress. But by January 2024, Peru's Institute of Legal Medicine dropped the mic. These mummies were dolls crafted from animal bones and synthetic glue. So much for extraterrestrial guests, huh? 3. Klerksdorp. Back in the early 1980s, miners in Ottosdal, South Africa were just going about their day, digging through pyrophyllite, a soft mineral we use for all sorts of things. And what did they find? These wild spherical objects looked more like props from a sci-fi movie than anything else. These little mysteries were later dubbed Klerksdorp spheres, named after the nearby town. Here's the kicker. These spheres weren't just odd-looking. They ranged from a tiny 0.5 centimeters to a hefty 10 centimeters, and were decked out with concentric grooves and a shiny metallic luster that could catch anyone's eye. Found within 3-billion-year-old rock formations, you can imagine the buzz they caused. Even Roelf Marx, the curator of the Klerksdorp Museum at the time, got hooked. He penned a letter on September 12, 1984, talking up their fibrous structure and how tough they were. So tough that not even steel could scratch them. Naturally, everyone had a theory. Aliens, time travelers, the chatter was endless. But science has a way of grounding us. Geologists like Paul V. Heinrich and Bruce Cairncross showed these were just concretions formed naturally from volcanic sediments over millions of years. 4. Tuai Borisov. Let's zoom into a little tale of cosmic curiosity that unfolded from the quaint corners of Crimea. On a seemingly typical night of August 30th, 2019, Gennady Borisov, an amateur astronomer with a knack for building telescopes, spotted something extraordinary through his self-assembled 0.65-meter telescope. From his personal observatory Margot, Borisov tracked an object whipping through space on an unusual path. This wasn't just any celestial wanderer. It was 2I Borisov, the first confirmed interstellar comet to visit our solar system. Fast forward a few weeks, and the Minor Planet Center is buzzing, officially tagging it as C2019Q4 Borisov on September 11th. The intrigue didn't stop there. With a nifty eccentricity of 3.36, it was clear this comet wasn't just passing by. It hailed from another star system entirely, renamed 2I Borisov by the International Astronomical Union on September 24th. This interstellar guest flaunted its hyperbolic flare and zipped closest to Earth on December 28th. Oh, and get this, the comet's tail? A whopping 14 times the size of Earth, spotted by Yale's sharp eyes. Between Hubble's peaks and ALMA's eavesdropping, turns out our cosmic visitor originated from a carbon-rich neighborhood far beyond our solar backyard. 5. 6 mummified bodies with 3 fingers. In 2017, near Nazca, Peru, 6 mummies popped up with a peculiar flair. They had 3 fingers and toes, and let's just say they weren't your average Joe. Jaime Maussan, a journalist with an eye for UFOs, introduced us to Maria. She's a tall tale at 1.68 meters, and Jaime had us wondering if she flew in from another planet. These mummies, dating back 1,500 years, sported elongated skulls and an unusual anatomy, stirring up quite the global chatter. Fast forward to 2018, and Russian researchers, including Professor Konstantin Korotkov, are scratching their heads, suggesting these beings might just be from a club we haven't joined yet, an unknown species thanks to their out-of-this-world rib structure and spacious craniums. However, mummy experts and Peruvian pundits called foul, tagging Jaime's show as a creative blend of human and animal parts with a sprinkle of synthetic drama. In a bold move in 2023, Maussan flashed 2 mummies before Mexico's Congress, claiming DNA tests showed 30% of "who's your daddy?" genetic mystery. Despite that, the verdict from the pros was a resounding fraud. Come 2024, a twist in the tale. Metallic implants in one mummy's hand, a mix of aluminum, tin, and silver, per Dr. Jose Zalce Benitez of the Mexican Navy. While it stirred the pot again, it didn't sway the skeptics. Meanwhile, Peru's Ministry of Culture was not amused, urging a touch more respect for their ancient VIPs. 6. Murchison meteorite. On September 28, 1969, just before 11 a.m., the quiet skies over Murchison, Victoria, in Australia, turned into a daytime fireworks show. A meteor blazed through, breaking into 3 pieces with a grand finale sonic boom that followed 30 seconds later. The fragments, some as hefty as 7 kilograms, scattered over a whopping 13 square kilometers. Imagine finding a 680-gram chunk of space rock that crashed through a roof and ended up cozily in some hay. Now, the Murchison meteorite is not your garden-variety space stone. It's a carbonaceous chondrite from the CM2 group, loaded with organic compounds and soaked in water-rich fluids from its parent asteroid. It boasts about 22.13% total iron and a hydrating 12% water content. Thanks to the quick pickup by locals and scientists, they preserved its pristine space essence and discovered more than 15 amino acids, some of which, like isovaline and pseudoleucine, are total strangers here on Earth. And just when you thought it couldn't get more mind-blowing, in January 2020, researchers found that this meteorite holds pre-solar silicon carbide grains. These tiny grains are over 7 billion years old, making them the oldest material found on Earth, and a solid 2.5 billion years older than the solar system itself. 7. Kozo artifact. You know how a simple weekend hobby can lead to an unexpected twist? Well, back on February 13th, 1961, rock collectors Wallace Lane, Virginia Maxey, and Mike Mikesell were out near Olancha, California, hunting for geodes for their LM&V Rock Hounds gem and gift shop. At an elevation of 4,300 feet, they snagged a few promising rocks. The next day, a big surprise awaited them. While slicing one open, Mikesell's diamond saw hit a snag and got damaged. Inside, nestled in hardened crud, was something resembling a spark plug. Dubbed the Kozo artifact, this find had heads spinning. X-rays showed a metal core with a layout echoing a modern spark plug. Talk about a historical whodunit. Some shouted, "Ancient tech," or aliens, but cooler heads prevailed, identifying it as a 1920s champion spark plug, a relic from early automotive days, encased not over eons, but mere decades. 8. Allende meteorite. On February 8, 1969, right when most folks were likely dreaming away, a fireball blazed through the skies of northern Mexico. Around 1:05 a.m., the Allende meteorite, roughly the size of a car and booking it at over 10 miles per second, decided to drop in near the village of Pueblito de Allende in Chihuahua. As it broke apart, it scattered a treasure trove of fragments across an 8 by 50 kilometer area. The show was so bright it turned night into day for hundreds of miles around, and what a haul it was. We're talking over 2 tons of extraterrestrial bling, making the Allende shower one of the biggest stony meteorite showers on record. The science squad, including big brains from the Smithsonian like Dr. Brian Mason and Dr. Roy S. Clark Jr., jumped on it faster than you can say space rocks. Teaming up with local kids in a Sarco Mexicana, they gathered up these cosmic breadcrumbs. These weren't just any space rocks, though. Packed inside were calcium aluminum-rich inclusions, some of the oldest known materials in the solar system, clocking in at around 4.567 billion years old. This windfall of pristine space stuff came just in time, too, prepping labs for the Apollo moon missions and giving researchers a crash course in cosmic chemistry. 9. ALH 84001. Back in the cool December of 1984, a team of plucky scientists bundled up and headed to Allen Hills, aiming to scoop up some meteorites trapped in ice. This wasn't just any old icy escapade, but part of the Antarctic Search for Meteorites program, a gig that kicked off in 1976. On the frosty day of December 27th, while scouring the icy landscape, Roberta Score, a lab manager from NASA's Johnson Space Center, spotted something unusual. There, standing out against the vast white, was a dark rock, about the size of a big old potato, weighing in at 4.3 pounds, dubbed Allen Hills 84001, ALHE 4001. This wasn't just another space pebble. It took a hot minute, okay, 9 years, for boffins to figure out it was a Martian meteorite, and not just any, but one of the oldest pals from Mars, dating back a whopping 4.091 billion years. The kicker? In 1996, scientists found what looked like teeny tiny fossils inside it, sparking a huge buzz about possible ancient life on Mars. 10. Campo del Cielo. Down in Argentina, there's a place called Campo del Cielo, which translates to Field of Heaven. Fancy, right? This area is a hotbed for ancient iron meteorites dating back about 4,200 to 4,700 years ago. Over that time, these space rocks have created at least 26 craters across a sprawling 18.5 by 3 kilometer terrain. Long before Europeans stumbled onto the scene, indigenous people were way ahead of the game. They used these heavenly metals for crafting tools and weapons, fully aware that these materials had a celestial origin. Flash forward to 1576, when the Spanish got wind of these tales and sent Captain de Miraval to get to the bottom of it. He unearthed a massive iron mass called Mesón de Fierro, or Table of Iron. Early tests hinted at its unusual purity, and this intriguing find was even reported back to the General Archive of the Indies in Seville, Spain. Fast forward again, and by 1774, Don Bartolomé Francisco de Maguna rediscovered the site, followed by Rubin de Celis in 1783. Who even blasted it with explosives to reveal more of the buried treasure. He estimated the mass at a whopping 15 tons and mistook it for a volcanic remnant. However, it was later confirmed by the Royal Society in London that this was indeed a meteorite, made up of 90% iron and 10% nickel. Among the heavyweight champs found here are the 30.8-ton Gancedo in 2016, and the 28.8-ton El Chaco in 1969, some of the largest meteorites ever discovered. 11. Nakla meteorite. On a seemingly ordinary day, June 28, 1911, the quiet village of El Nakla El Baharia in Egypt got a startling visit from space. At about 9 a.m., a bright fireball lit up the sky, zipping over the heads of the villagers with a dramatic white smoke trail and a series of booming explosions. This wasn't your everyday skydiving meteorite. It broke into about 40 pieces as it descended, scattering them near Abu Homos in the Alexandria Governorate. These otherworldly souvenirs, buried as deep as a meter, range from a mere 20 grams to a whopping 1,813 grams, totaling around 10 kilograms. Adding a pinch of local lore, a farmer named Muhammad Ali Effendi Hakim team claimed one fragment had the unfortunate timing to vaporize a dog. However, no one could actually prove it. Talk about being in the wrong place at the wrong time. The Egyptian Geological Survey, spearheaded by the keen-eyed geologist W.F. Hume, didn't waste a minute. They collected samples and gathered stories from eyewitnesses, sending 2 hefty fragments off to the British Museum for a closer look. Turns out, these rocks were Martian hitchhikers, achondrites from the Naklite group, born from Martian volcanoes about 1.3 billion years ago. They even held secrets of ancient Martian water, giving us clues that the red planet might once have had the wet stuff. And just think, in 1998, one of these cosmic pieces weighing 641 grams found its way to NASA's Johnson Space Center to help unlock more Martian mysteries. 12. Antikythera mechanism. Back in the spring of 1900, a group of Greek divers from the island of Symi, led by Captain Dimitrios Kontos, ducked into the waters near Antikythera to escape a storm. When diver Elias Stadiatis plunged into the deep, about 45 meters down, instead of just seaweed and fish, he stumbled upon a seabed strewn with ancient treasures, bronze and marble statues, pottery, and the remains of an old ship. At first glance, Elias freaked, thinking he'd seen a pile of dead bodies. Curiosity got the better of Captain Kontos, who dove in to see for himself. Realizing the significance, they alerted the Greek authorities. The Navy sent over the boat Mycale, and what do you know? One of the first major underwater archaeological digs kicked off. Under the guidance of archaeologist Valerios Stais, they unearthed a treasure trove from a 1st century BCE Roman shipwreck, including exquisite statues, jewelry, glassware, and ancient coins. But the crown jewel? In May 1902, Stais found a mysterious corroded bronze piece with gears and Greek inscriptions. Turned out to be the Antikythera mechanism, an ancient Greek gadget that could predict celestial events. Now, that's what I call a game changer in understanding ancient tech, all proudly displayed at the National Archaeological Museum in Athens. 13. Sacsayhuaman walls. You've got to hand it to the Incas. Their knack for building was nothing short of amazing. Take the Sacsayhuaman walls near Cusco, Peru. These mammoth structures, crafted under Pachacuti Inca Yupanqui's rule in the 15th century, show off just how savvy they were. No mortar? No problem. The boulders are snuggled together so tightly that you couldn't slip a note through the cracks. Back when Spanish explorers first clapped eyes on it in the 16th century, they couldn't believe it was the work of mere mortals. Pedro Sancho, tagging along with Francisco Pizarro, was all praise and disbelief, marveling at the sheer size of those stones and the Incas' epic assembly skills. Fast forward to the 1930s, Peruvian archaeologist Julio C. Tello was digging up the dirt, unearthing artifacts that tell us more about how these giant puzzles were put together. His findings really kicked off serious research and a push to keep this cultural treasure tip-top. And don't get me started on the weight of those stones. Some tip the scales at over 100 tons. How the Incas managed that feat is still up for spirited chats among scholars today. 14. Fukang meteorite. In 2000, a local hiker, just out and about near Fukang, China, stumbled upon a colossal chunk of space rock, weighing in at a whopping 1,003 kilograms, 2,211 pounds. This wasn't just any old rock. It turned out to be the Fukang meteorite, a sparkling palisite packed with gem-quality olivine crystals embedded in a nickel-iron matrix. Keeping their identity under wraps, our mysterious discoverer hauled this extraterrestrial find all the way to the US for a closer look. By 2005, this cosmic celebrity made its grand entrance at the Tucson Gem and Mineral Show in Arizona, dazzling both collectors and scientists alike. Dr. Dante Loretta, a space rock aficionado from the University of Arizona, couldn't get over those shimmering olivine crystals and the meteorite's tale of the early solar system's formative years. Dating back about 4.5 billion years, the 2008 auction block saw a hefty 925-pound slice of this celestial beauty at Bonham's in New York, tagged at around $2 million. Spoiler alert, it didn't sell. 15. The Gibeon meteorite. In 1836, when folks traveled by horse and thought tomatoes were poisonous, English explorer Captain J.E. Alexander was trekking through what's now Namibia in the Great Fish River region. He wasn't just sightseeing. He was busy noticing the Nama people getting crafty with iron spearheads and metal tools despite no iron mines in sight. Where did these shiny bits come from, you ask? Well, Alexander was just as curious. He discovered the Nama were actually picking up metallic fragments scattered across the land. Intrigued, Alexander shipped some of these metal pieces back to London for a closer look. Enter Sir John Herschel, stargazer and chemist extraordinaire, who cracked the case by finding high levels of nickel in the samples, a dead giveaway for their meteoritic roots. Yep, those weren't just any old metal scraps. They were pieces of the Gibeon meteorite named after the nearby town. This celestial visitor, now known for its fine octahedrite structure and snazzy Widmanstetten patterns, covered a whopping 390 by 120 kilometers. From being tool material for the Nama to modern jewelry pieces, these fragments now dazzle folks in Windhoek's Post Street Mall. 16. Sikote Aline Meteorite. On February 12, 1947, right at 10:38 a.m., the sky above the Sikote Aline Mountains in southeastern Russia got a whole lot brighter. A meteor, blazing brighter than the sun, zipped across the sky at a whopping 14 kilometers per second, diving into the Earth at a sharp 41-degree angle. Before you knew it, this celestial showstopper went kaboom at about 5.6 kilometers up, raining down debris across 1.3 square kilometers. We're talking about a huge crater 26 meters wide and 6 meters deep. Ouch! Not one to miss out on such a spectacle, the Soviet Academy of Sciences wasted no time. They sent out expeditions from 1947 to 1950, braving Siberia's no-joke climate to collect over 8,500 meteorite pieces, tipping the scales at more than 23 tons. The heavyweight champ of these space rocks weighed in at a solid 1,045 kilograms. This massive meteorite, classified as a coarsest octahedrite iron meteorite, IIAB group, boasts a makeup of 93% iron, 5.9% nickel, and just a sprinkle of trace elements. Whether it was the regmaglyptid, fusion-crusted beauties, or the rough-and-tumble shrapnel-like pieces, each fragment offered a clue into the meteor's explosive entrance. This event isn't just a record holder for one of the largest meteorite falls, it's a goldmine for understanding the nitty-gritty of meteoroid entry, fragmentation, and even planetary defense. 17. Puma Punku stone structures. Puma Punku, or the Gate of the Puma, is nestled near Tiwanaku in western Bolivia. This archaeological gem showcases the Tiwanaku civilization's architectural genius, which thrived from 300 to 1000 AD. The site's setup includes a terraced platform mound, a sunken court, and structures that make modern engineers scratch their heads in awe. Let's take a quick trip back to 1549 when Pedro Cieza de León, a Spanish chronicler, first stumbled upon these ruins. He gawked at the massive stone blocks, some tipping the scales at 130 tons, and documented their precision in his Chronicas del Peru. Jump to the 1900s and you've got German archaeologist Max Uhle digging deep, kicking off systematic studies and leaving breadcrumbs for future researchers. Fast forward to the mid-20th century, Bolivian archaeologist Carlos Ponce Sanguinés took the baton, discovering that Puma Punku was not just any old site. It was a ceremonial hotspot built in phases starting around 536 AD. The real head-scratcher? The interlocking stone masonry is so precise, without a dollop of mortar. Even today, with all our tech, scholars are still piecing together how the Tiwanaku pulled off such architectural feats. Thanks to 3D modeling, we're getting a digital peek into what Puma Punku might have looked like in its prime. How cool is that? 18. Thule Papyrus. In 1933, Alberto Thule, the guy running the Egyptian section of the Vatican Museum, stumbled upon a fascinating papyrus in a Cairo antique shop. This isn't just any old scroll, it's what's now known as the Thule Papyrus, believed to document wild celestial happenings during Pharaoh Thutmose III's time, around 1480 BCE. Here's the kicker. Thule couldn't buy it, too pricey. Instead, he scribbles down its hieroglyphs to mull over later. After Thule checks out, the transcription ends with his brother, but the copy and the original vanish like a bad magic trick. Fast forward to the 1950s, and Italian Egyptologist Boris Darachobilts claims he's got the original, translating it to talk about fiery discs in the sky. Hello, ancient UFOs? Now, scholars are scratching their heads. Is this ancient sci-fi or just a tale of natural sky shows? Without the original papyrus, it's tough to say. and that drives history buffs and UFO enthusiasts nuts. It's a classic case of lost and definitely not found, keeping everyone guessing and reminding us why keeping the originals safe is a big deal in the history game. 19. The Wedge of Aiud. In 1974, some construction workers in Aiud, Romania, were digging near the Mureș River when they stumbled upon a real head-scratcher buried 33 feet deep, alongside two mastodon bones, which are as old as dirt. Think at least 11,000 years old. They found a wedge-shaped metal object. This wasn't just any chunk of metal. It was the aluminum wedge of Aiud, about 7.8 inches long and 4.9 inches wide. This artifact baffled everyone because it's made mostly of aluminum, 89% to be exact, mixed with copper, silicon, zinc, and some other trace elements. Here's the kicker. Aluminum production didn't kick off until the 19th century, yet here was this piece, snug with prehistoric bones. Cue the wild theories, a forgotten relic of an advanced ancient civilization, a piece of alien tech. Why not? Some folks guess it might just be a piece of modern machinery, like an excavator tooth lost in time. But that's no fun. Tucked away in the Museum of the History of Transylvania, the wedge keeps everyone guessing and debates hot. 20. Stone spheres of Costa Rica. Back in the early 1930s, when the United Fruit Company was busy expanding banana plantations in Costa Rica's Diquís Delta, workers stumbled upon something pretty baffling. Hidden beneath the lush foliage were numerous stone spheres. And these weren't just any rocks. They ranged from teeny tiny, a few centimeters across, all the way up to whopping 2 meters in diameter. Enter Doris Stone, the daughter of a United Fruit exec who kicked off the first scientific dig into these globular mysteries. Her research was published in 1943 in American Antiquity, turning heads in the archaeological world. Fast forward to 1948, and you've got Samuel K. Lothrop from Harvard's Peabody Museum trekking down there, guided by Stone's initial findings. Lothrop wasn't messing around. He brought back detailed maps and analyses, which he published in his 1963 tome, Archaeology of the Diquís Delta, Costa Rica. Thanks to these early jungle jaunts, we began to grasp the significance of these spheres, thought to be crafted by the now extinct Diquís culture. Despite all the brainpower thrown at them, the real purpose and how they were made still keep scholars scratching their heads. And that's it for today, folks. Which of these mysterious objects surprised you the most? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel for more fascinating content, and hit the bell icon so you're always in the loop with our latest updates.